Good morning everyone. My name is Dr. Syed Afnan Ahmed and today we will be discussing about the computer-based IELTS test versus the paper-based IELTS test. So the very reason I created this video was because I was receiving multiple queries from you guys whether to go for the paper-based test or to go for the computer-based test. So by the end of this video, you will have a clear picture which one suits you the best and which test will help you gain a better band score. So if you are more comfortable with writing on paper, you should definitely go for the paper-based test. If however you are more comfortable and work faster on a computer, then you should go for the computer-based test. If you are still however confused, then you should practice both the modes and then decide which one is good for you. Both the academic and the general students have the option for the computer-based test and the paper-based test. You should understand that IELTS test remains the same whether you choose the computer-based test or you go for the paper-based test. The test format, the question types, the scoring criteria, and the difficulty levels, they all remain the same for the paper-based test and the computer-based test. And for both of the tests, you have to be physically present at a specific location. So the computer-based version would sound much more easier as it has options like highlighting the text or making notes on the screen, which can be very much helpful for some test takers. However, paper-based version would also sound much more easier as it is much more familiar to those who use the traditional paper-based test. Now let's talk about some details of the computer-based test. The key advantage of a computer-based IELTS is that there are multiple sessions available in a single day. That is, you can pick up a date or time upon your own convenience. Then, there are limited number of seats, so more date options are available up to 7 days a week and nearly 3 times a day. So, less number of students involved leads to less amount of disturbance. Test centers are significantly less crowded. Speaking test is conducted on the same day as the rest of the test. Now let's talk about the format of the computer-based test. Here in front of you, you can see there is a screen where you initially write your name, and after proceeding forward, you can see there is a start test button. So once you click on the start test button, the introductory screen opens and it takes you towards the question. Then there is a clock at the top of the screen which shows you how much time you are left with before the other components begin. So at the current slide, you can easily see the time displayed at the top, and on the left side you can see the questionnaires where it says the National Parks of America, and on the right side you can see different sorts of questions. The whole format is in the similar way, which becomes much more convenient, and at the bottom you can see part 1, part 2 and part 3. All of these are different pages with questions. All of this are convenient for those who are well versed with the computer-based tests. Now, the clock will turn red and flash when you have 10 and 5 minutes left for the reading and the writing test. The timer will automatically stop when the test ends. Instructions for each part are given in a box at the top of the screen. Here, for example, you can see part 1, read the text below and answer questions 1 to 12. The navigation bar at the bottom can be used to move from one question to the next. So one thing about the computer-based test is you could click on a number of questions and go directly to the question. You can use the back arrow to navigate to the last question. In case you have doubts on whether a specific response is correct, you can click on that answer number at the bottom bar, review and get back to the current question. That means that if you can see below at the black bar at part 1 from 1 to 10, you can click on any of the questions, review the answer and then get back on the current question. Another thing about the computer-based test is the responses can be reviewed and changed at any time till the test ends. There is an option to highlight the text, prepare notes and select the text as well. All of the answers are saved automatically and you need not to press enter or search for the save option. One thing general about the IELTS test is it is conducted mostly at the educational institutes. Concealed headphones are also provided, sometimes to avoid distractions and enable focus on self-performance. Both the computer and the paper-based test have 4 modules: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Listening is of 30 minutes, reading is for 60 minutes, writing is also for 60 minutes, whereas speaking is about 11 to 14 minutes. So, the listening, reading, and writing modules are same for the paper-based test and the computer-based IELTS test, whereas speaking is always done face-to-face with the examiner or online at home. But make sure you have proper internet connection and you have a proper mic. The results of the computer-based IELTS test is usually announced 3 to 5 days after taking your test, whereas the results for the paper-based IELTS test is usually announced 13 days after taking your IELTS test. So now let's discuss about some facts of the paper-based IELTS test. Candidates who are appearing for the paper-based IELTS test will always be provided with an answer sheet and a pencil to note down their responses within the allotted time frame. Paper-based IELTS test is always completed on the same day without any interruptions or breaks. The speaking section might be completed prior or after a week before your test date. So now, let's discuss about each of the modules for the candidates who are appearing for the paper-based test. First of all, we will talk about the listening test. So, for the listening test, it is very convenient to highlight all the keywords, mark important points and underline them, and also read the questions ahead if you have the spare time. You can also write more than one answers in a question sheet where you are unsure about the answer, and then later on you can finally decide what to choose. In IELTS paper-based test, the candidates will be provided 10 minutes to transfer all the answers on the official answer sheet at the end of the listening section, and these 10 minutes are sufficient to transfer your answers from the question sheet to the answer sheet. So what are the problems with the listening modules of the paper-based test? At some centers, headphones are not provided and you must be listening directly from the speakers. Even though it is clearly audible, but some students think that headphones provide much clearer sound and there are less chances of distraction. Other than that, editing or changing your answers is really complicated in the paper-based test. It involves crossing off or rubbing out your text. While copying answers from the question sheet to the answer sheet in the last 10 minutes, you need to double check the sequence of your answers. A lot of students commit mistakes during this step. And lastly, examination hall is bombarded with students. This can lead to focus distraction as well. Now, let's talk combinedly of the pros and cons of the reading and the writing paper-based test. This mode of exam is highly beneficial for the students who lack the basic computer knowledge and typing skills. In the writing section specifically, candidates while writing the paragraphs can have a diagrammatic representation of the content, which becomes quite feasible. They can easily manage and generate ideas on the question paper at the start of the writing section. For the reading, they can easily mark and underline, make notes much more conveniently. On the other hand, what makes it tough is editing or changing the answers is really complicated, as it involves crossing off or rubbing out the text, maintaining exam time limits, counting the words while writing, and the handwriting qualities are also very challenging. Examination halls are bombarded with the students as told earlier, so this can also lead to a focus distraction. Now, let's talk about the computer-based IELTS test. The test takers have to answer on the computer screen in their respective boxes. The computer-based IELTS test is without any interruptions or break. The speaking section might be completed prior or after a week of your test date. With IELTS on the computer, you will always have to type in the corresponding boxes on your screen. You will still be provided with a pencil or a pen and a paper to make the note of the important points. Now we shall look at the listening computer-based test module. In the computer-based test module for the listening, you have to type your answers simultaneously, and at the end, you will be given 2 minutes only and you have to scrutinize the answers that you have typed. The candidates are provided with individual headphones for the listening test, The volume can be adjusted and you can hear clearly. So what are the disadvantages of the listening computer-based test module? Candidates get less time to check their answers after the listening test ends. Usually they have already typed the answers, so only 2 minutes is given and they have to scrutinize their answers for any typos. You're also provided a pen and a paper, but this is merely impossible to write and type the answers and listen simultaneously. It becomes really tough and challenging, so you are advised to practice well before you appear for the test. So what about the reading computer-based test module? In the reading test, a passage is displayed at the left. Here you can see a passage is given which is a balanced diet and questions are given at the right side. Each side can be scrolled individually where you can have a clear view of the passage and understand the passage as well. You can mark and highlight all the questions and write down the answer simultaneously, which becomes much more convenient. So what are the disadvantages of the reading computer-based test module? Reading on the screen is really stressful and harder as compared to the paper-based test. Highlighting, making notes requires practice and will consume your time if you don't practice good enough. Now we talk about the last of the modules, which is the writing computer-based test module. The candidates can easily copy, paste, delete or reposition their paragraphs according to their own convenience without the hassle of crossing off. The screen shows the word count as well, which really saves your time, and there is no stress of poor handwriting as well. On the right side you can see a question is given which is the comparative type, which says discuss both of these opinions and give your own opinion. Below you can write down an essay where you can copy, paste or delete any of the sentences, and below you can see the word count. That being said, are there any cons of the writing computer-based test module? Yes, certainly. Candidates having less experience in computer typing might slow their work progress, and since there are no auto corrections, there are more chances of the typing errors, which are called typos. Since everybody is typing at that moment for the task 1 and task 2, there is a lot of distraction and noise caused by the typing of the students. This can also cause hindrance while you type. Screen gets locked exactly at the mentioned time, so you can't make the last minute changes. Practicing writing at home over a laptop is way different from the keyboard that you type at the exam, so always practice on a keyboard. So that will be all for today, and I hope you've understood about the computer based and the paper based IELTS exam. If you have any queries, you can write down at the comment section. I'll be glad to respond those as soon as possible. Thank you for your time and do subscribe my channel as well.